Hello! What I thought we'd do tonight was have a quick look at two lovely guitars. Unusually, I happen to have two Patrick Eggle Berlins, both from the early 90s, in the house at this present time. Although the white one is currently up for sale, so may not be here for too much longer. But I thought I'd take this opportunity just to give you a quick overview of these two guitars, what they represent in terms of the Patrick Eggle history, and what the kind of differences are between some of the key models. So what you'll see here is two lovely examples. Sorry about this very poor camera work, but two lovely examples from 1992 for this one, which is a Berlin Standard, and 1993 this Berlin Pro, and I'll just talk you through them very briefly. So back in the early 90s, when the Patrick Eggle Guitar Company started to launch these new models, they started with the Berlin, and essentially back in 1991 when the Berlin was launched, there were just three models. There was the Berlin Standard, there was the Berlin, and there was the Berlin Pro. In fact, there may not have even been the Standard to begin with. There might have just been the Berlin and the Berlin Pro. But very soon after, the Standard appeared, and what we've got here today is a Berlin Standard from 1992 and a Berlin Pro from 1993, and I thought it would just give me a really quick opportunity to talk you through the differences. Now, the first thing to say is that essentially the construction of both guitars is the same. Even though you can't see it on this Berlin Standard, it is a mahogany back, a maple top carved with a sort of violin carve, set mahogany neck, ebony fingerboard, Spurzl tuners, and basically the Pro, the Standard and the Berlin without a suffix are all essentially the same build. What are the differences then? Well, here we've got a Standard from 1992. The Standard came in a solid opaque colour, so although it's got maple under there you can't see it, and it came as a hardtail two-piece go-toe bridge. Now, it's worth saying that later on in the 90s the range of Berlins expanded and there were all sorts of variations. When I talk about these particular specifications, I'm talking specifically about the kind of 91 to 93 period. So a Berlin Standard, opaque finish, fixed bridge and a tone control. Okay, now moving on to the Berlin Pro. Actually skip that for a second. Between the Standard and the Pro there was the Berlin. It later became the Berlin Plus, but originally it was just called the Berlin with no suffix. And the Berlin kind of sat between the Standard and the Pro. So it had a translucent finish, so you could see the nice figured maple top, but it was still a hardtail guitar. So it was kind of like a translucent finish version of this one. And then you had the Berlin Pro, and here we go. So here's the Berlin Pro. On this one you get to see the nice figured maple top, but the main differences between the Pro and the Standard, or the Pro and the Berlin without a suffix, is that on this one you get a three-way rotary switch that selects between outer coils, inner coils and full humbuckers, and you get a very fancy locking tremolo system. At some point I might do a video on how this works. I won't at the moment because it's not actually set up to function correctly, which is why the arm isn't actually fitted. So the Berlin Pro came with a trem, came with a three-way rotary switch and a nice translucent finish to show off that lovely top. Now, while I'm here, I may just do one other quick thing, which is explain some strange anomaly, strange kind of mythical story about what happened in the early years. Reputedly, the very first Berlins from around 1991 to 92 had hand-carved necks. And you will notice behind the nut on this one there is no volute, like a little triangle wedge that adds strength to that weak point. No volute, because theoretically too labour intensive to carve one into a hand carved neck. So this is a really nice early example without the volute. Later on, when production moved into a more CNC derived process, lo and behold, there's the volute. So there you go, really quick overview. Two gorgeous guitars, 1993, 1992, from very early on in the Patrick Eggle manufacturing, both made in Coventry by a really small team at the beginning of that build period. And a few of the brief differences. Watch out for another video coming soon where I'm going to talk a bit about serial numbers, because there's all sorts of weird anomalies about Eggles and how the serial numbers work, but that'll come later. Cheers, bye.